Alright, this is a pivotal moment here in the game because I'm starting to tear everything apart that I made to try to reorganize and make it that I could use it better again. So I got this problem now where I got the ship and it's crashing into its own shots that I fire. Right here, if I go ahead and do this, see that? Like the shots that I'm firing, they're crashing into my own ship. So what the heck is that? Let me see, player shot. So let me just put a breakpoint here on collision enter, and then let me attach it to Unity and debug it to see what is hitting when I press fire. Like what's going on? So here I go, I'm gonna press fire. And I'm here. The collision object is what? It's the player. Yo, whatever happened to the player in the shot ignoring the collisions with each other? Did the layers change numbers or something? Let me see something. So here in layers, 6, player shot. Player shot ignores, so 6 is the player shot and 9 is the player. Yeah, I'm gonna reorganize everything. So first, let me start off by rewriting a player script, and I'm just gonna write a new script. Create model behavior script player 2. Now let me open this up in Visual Studio, and I'm gonna put 2 windows side by side. I'm gonna say window, and I'm gonna say new vertical group. Bam. So this is the new one I'm writing, and that's my old one right there on the side. So what do I got? Some variables like public, float, move speed. I'll keep that the same, like 10 by default. Then I got the prefab for the shot. So this is a prefab, this is a pool object for the shot. And then there's the explosion. That's a prefab for the explosion. Sound file, player hit, string, sound file, player explosion equals explosion 2. And I'm going to rename that player explosion. So let me just go look here. Explosion 2 in my prefabs. Yeah, it's player explosion. Okay, player explosion right there. So those are the sound file names, and then there's the audio objects. Private, audio source, aud, player hit, and private, audio source, aud, player explosion. And then there's the, in my scene, I have pools, player shot pool, enemy pool, and then I'm going to have a pool for particle effects that go away by themselves, but they still need somewhere to open up to. So I'm going to create an empty, I'm going to say particle effect pool. Okay, so then over here, keep these organized together. Prefab for the shot, pool for the shot. Prefab for the player explosion, and private game object pool particle effect. I'll just call it particle effect pool. Okay, so now to get some of these objects like the particle effect pool, I'm going to use a property in the start. I could do this in the start. Start. Okay, the start function. And the particle effect pool is going to equal game object dot find particle effect pool object in the game object. Yeah, so it's going to look for the particle effect pool game object, which if I look in Unity, here it is, particle effect pool, right? It's going to look for it, and it's going to set my particle effect pool equal to that when I start up the game. The other thing is the audio sounds. Okay, so let me load the audio sounds in the start. So I have the globals class that I wrote. It's a static class. I wrote globals, and in there I have the create audio source, and it takes a game object, which is this dot game object, because I'm going to add audio source to the game object the script's attached to, comma the audio source object, which is aud player hit, and that'll be a reference parameter. It's going to change my aud player hit value back here, and then the sound file player hit, sound file player hit, and then there. The other sound I want to load up with the create audio source function I made in my globals. Create audio source, this dot game object, another sound I'm adding here, ref aud player explosion, comma sound file player explosion. Okay. Okay, so I got those things in my start that I'm going to load up. Particle effect pool. Okay, then in the update, let me just shrink this guy down. Outlining collapse definitions. In my update, I'm going to do my movement. Okay, so here, private void, whoopsie. Let me just write the word update and let IntelliSense fill it in. Update. Bam. So I gotta do my move, I gotta do my fire, right? So the move controls are this. Copy, move, bam. And then clamp position the camera. I didn't write that function yet, but that's right here. And I think I'm gonna take, let me see what's inside clamp position the camera. I think I'm gonna make that a globals. I'm gonna put that in the globals class. Why? Because I bet there could be a lot of game objects that I want to clamp the position of the camera, so I don't want to have to write that over and over again. So I'll just put that here as a public static void, and then this transform that position. So I will need to pass this transform position, this transform position. Otherwise, I could give it the game object. Yeah, I could give it the game object instead. Game object, G object. And then the word this becomes the word game object transform that position. Game object transform that position. Therefore, I make sure I'm changing the position. And the main camera is always the main camera in the scene. So all this should work. Bam, I made it a globals. So that means over here in my new player script that I'm writing over player script 2, I could say globals dot clamp position the camera, and I could pass the game object. Dot game object. Just take care of that. Now that's global. And then for firing, what did I have for firing in my old player script? That's like, let me just collapse definitions, and I'm going to look at firing a shot. Okay, firing a shot. Yeah, I made it call a function because I'm going to use pooling. So when do I fire a shot? I fire a shot if you press the space bar, then call fire shot. Copy that, put that here. Now let me make the function fire shot, which pretty much almost could be this. Copy. I guess when I'm going through everything and I'm rewriting it, it's giving me a chance to make sure that everything is like clean, you know? Oops, I put it in the wrong spot. Control Z, Control Z. The brackets here, I gotta put it as its own new function. Sorry, that's a mistake. There we go, fire shot. So now it's not the player shot pool, it's called the pool for the shot. Prefab for the shot, pool for the shot. I called it pool for the shot, pool for the shot. That's looking for the game object in there. Pool for the shot. So here it instantiates one, and there it looks for one. Script activate shot. Gives it the position and the rotation. So I could activate the shot, and I could just give it a game object instead too, which I'll fix that after. Anyway, so what do I have now in the script? I have the script opens up, it loads sounds, it gets the pool for the particle effect. The pool for the shot is going to have to be determined by the person who's playing the game. Otherwise, I could do the same thing. I know that I called it particle effect pool, and I load it, right? I could do the same thing with the pool shot equals game object dot find pool shot. I could call it. Oh no, it's the pool player shot. What is it called? I called it the player shot pool. Player shot pool. Player shot pool. Dot game object. Yeah, so I don't even have to define it in the let me call this something different. Player shot pool. Enter. And this could be private too. And let the script just find it and define it instead of me having to do it. So here's a pool, here's a pool. Player shot pool, particle effect pool. And it's kind of highlighted. This one's not highlighted because I don't think it's being used anywhere yet, this variable. I don't think it is. This is the player shot pool to create the shot when I want to fire a shot. Now, where do I put the stuff about the collisions to ignore between layers? I'm going to put it in the level controller script. You know, when I'm going to say layers to ignore, I'm going to put it in the level controller script. Now, what's the other event So I have the start event, update event from model behavior script, and the on collision enter event when my ship collides with something. So private void, or let me just type on collision enter. Bam. Let's look inside. What did I have in here? Oh, when I collide with something and it's a tagged enemy. When I collide with an enemy. I wonder if I could detect collisions on a layer. If I collide with anything that's on my enemy layer. Yeah, why am I saying that? Because then I'll have to tag for enemy, tag for enemy 1, enemy 2, enemy da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Tag things as enemy, or just make things on the enemy layer. I'm going to do that. So let's see. I got my player, and I could go ahead and look at the layers over here. And right now I have a layer for player. Add a layer. So as a matter of fact, I could just say here, player layer and enemy layer. Yeah, so I got 6 and I got 7, and I'm going to get rid of these. So anything on the player layer does not collide with each other. Anything on the enemy layer does not collide with each other. Now when I go back over here, I'm going to have to say players on the player layer. If I go to the prefab for the shot is on the player layer, which, okay, that's already there. In the level controller script, here's the level controller. In this script, I'll do the collision stuff. So here in the start for the level controller, all it seems to be doing is loading sound, right? And then it plays music. Then I'm going to ignore collisions. What was that ignore collisions command looking like? I think I have an example of it here in the player shot. Yeah, physics, ignore collision, 6 to 6, copy, and level controller, 6 to 6. 6 equals the player layer. I'll just put that right there on the side here. Okay, back to the player script here. And now what do I got to do in the collision function? Okay, int collision layer equals collision game object layer, collision layer. So if the collision layer equals 7, there's this help functions, but I'm just going to be like 7, then I know I'm colliding and I can do all this collision stuff. Right? Copy. Then I'll do all the collision stuff, like I'll take away a life, and then I'll play some sounds. And now these are named something different. Odd player explosion, odd player hit, odd player explosion. Then I'll explode off, and then I'll check to see if it's game over. And I kind of disabled checking to see if it's game over. And I'm thinking when I'm playing the game, I probably want to like turn that off so I don't die so fast sometimes. So here in the player script, I'm gonna make a public bool B can die. Or not, yeah, can die. And then over here, if B can die equals true, and I ran out of lives, then die. Then I can just put this here. Boom, boom, boom. And what does it do? It does the player die. Let's call this player die. So I gotta make 2 functions. First, trigger the explosion, which is this right here. Let me almost start by just copying this. It may almost be able to be the same thing. A lot of stuff doesn't have to be so different. It was working. So it's my prefab player explosion, and it's my pool, my player effect pool is where it's going to be the parent. And I start with the particle system and I say play. Okay, well, you just got to remember to set the particle system to destroy. So let me put that in quotes. Remember the Alamo. Remember to set particle system to particle system stop action equal destroy. All right, that's triggering the explosion. So that took care of that. Now we need the player die function, which over here I called it die for good. So for now, just I enumerator. Oopsie, doesn't know what it is yet. Enumerator player die, and it has a delay before it actually dies. And this is gonna need show potential fixes, systems collections, and now we can do the stuff of this. Copy. There, I think I got everything from the player script into my new player script. Slightly bit more organized. Names all, organized a little bit better. Comments throughout to help understand what's going on. So let me save that. And then let me go ahead and I could stop making it 2 windows by doing this, but I already did that. All right, and then let me go back to Unity over here. That's my ChatGPT. And here's the player ship, but it's a prefab already. So let me go to the prefab of the player ship. And let me take off this script, remove this component, and then let me add, the player 2 script instead. Done. Prefab shot and prefab player explosion. You need to define those. So prefab shot as I play the game is going to equal this, and prefab player explosion is going to equal this. File, save. And go back to the game view, and let's see what happens here at this point. Now the player having another script. So I can move, and he locks onto the sides, and he shoots. Okay, so that's going on. Now, what else? What other scripts could I fix? The shot was an important object with an important script that did a lot of stuff. So here, the player shot assets. I'm going to make a new player shot script. So I'm going to say create, not show in Explorer. I'm going to make a new player shot script, create, I'll be over 2, player shot 2. All right, I spelled this wrong, and the reason right there, it's going to be spelled wrong here. So I don't really want that. So let me close that, and let me just delete this. Easy just to delete that before I start writing anything, and then just make another script over again. Player shot. There you go. Oh, 2, because there's a player shot 1. So I'm going to be wanting to look at player shot 1 and player shot 2. And I'll do the same thing with the windows. I'll just, make vertical tab groups. Okay, got that out. Bam. Okay, so shots have a move speed. So how long the shot lasts, that wasn't bad. Okay, public float. Inactive shot. If the shot's active or not. And that's not a float, it's a bool. Let me take this slowly. Let me start putting the start function in here to see what I have to do at start. And this had a start function where I was ignoring the layers, so I'm not even going to have a start function now. Then what else did I have? The update to move the shot along. All right, so that I'll have. Update. If it's not inactive, then go ahead and keep moving it. If it's not inactive, then move. Move the shot. That's kind of easy. Yeah. Then what else do I have as an event? Colliding with something. The shot collides with something. All right, so let's get with that one. So it's already set to ignore collisions with things that are on the player layer. So only thing I have to make sure is that this is something on the enemy layer. You gotta be on the enemy layer. Okay. So then I'll be like explosion. Wait a minute, I don't have my sounds. So I'm gonna play sound, trigger an explosion, and then I'm going to be deactivating the shot, updating the score. Well, I could do the globals update score. Update score. Let's get some of the sound objects. Sound file for the player shot when it fires. And it's going to equal, I think it was player shot. All right, let me just look in Unity, see what the name was for the resource. Player shot. Then what other sound file I got? Private string sound file shot explosion equals explosion 3 is the sound I'm using for shot explosion. Did I rename it? Explosion 1, explosion 3. Let me hear that. Yeah, so this is going to be my shot explosion. There we go, shot explosion. Did I spell that right? I don't think so. Let me rename that shot explosion. There. And now in the game, that will be shot explosion. I don't think I want things capital and lower, so let me just fix this player shot. I'm going to name it like that. Keep everything organized the right way, or similar. Player shot. And that's not being anal. That's like once your code gets into many lines, those things start mattering. Because that's what started happening to me. I was writing all these functions and everything, and all of a sudden I wanted to change the graphics object, and then I was having trouble, you know? Before I get with the prefab, let's finish the sounds, because I got the sounds, but I'm going to need the audio source. So private audio source, odd player shot equals null, and private audio source, odd shot explosion. My method is I have a property, and the property, boop, gets me the thing, right? So these privates, I'm just going to put like this, and like this, and then when I'm calling them in the code, it'll be like this. It'll be private audio source, odd player shot. Don't put parentheses, because then it'll turn into a function. Then I can say the get, and then here in the get, if odd player shot equals null, then what? Then I'll call the create. Odd player shot equals globals dot create audio source, this dot game object, comma, ref to the audio source, audio player shot. Yeah, I don't need this, like this. Ref to the audio player shot, and then the file name is player shot. And let me put my semicolon there. And then I just have to return the odd player shot. Yeah, so my method was I made a property. I call odd player shot. If it's not instantiated yet, then it creates the audio source. Okay, so that's one sound. And the other sound I have is private audio source, odd shot explosion, odd shot explosion equals null. Then globals dot create audio source, this dot game object, comma, ref odd shot explosion, comma, sound file shot explosion. Bing bang. Okay, then I just have to return it. Return odd shot explosion. So I got my two properties. So that's how I work. Even though this thing's going to get spawned, I have those two properties there. So now in the collision enter, when I collide, first I do the score, then I can do the odd shot explosion, odd shot explosion dot play. Then I want to, so first I do the score, then I do the explosion, which is the sound, and the trigger explosion. Explosion is an effect. So let's write the trigger the explosion. How's this one look? It looks pretty good. Since the explosion is a particle effect, copy. I just, since the explosion is a particle effect, yo, what's my prefab for the shot explosion? Oh, I didn't do that yet. So the shot explosion, so up here, public game object, prefab shot explosion. And it needs a pool. Did I get a pool? Private particle effect pool. So here this will be particle effect pool. Now, of course, I have to initiate the particle effect pool. Mamma mia. I'll do this. Oops. I'll do this for the private, and then I'll make a object particle effect pool. And I'll have a get. And then I'll be like, if particle effect pool equals null, then I'll do the thing where I get it, and then I'll return particle effect pool. So that way here I could use the particle effect pool, and I got my trigger explosion. So instantiate, and here I'm going to say remember to set particle effect stop action equal destroy. Collapse definitions, outlining collapse definitions, but let me see if I finish when my shot collides. I got my score, I got my explosion. So wait a minute, where'd my old player shot go? Right here. And I am busy looking at the on collision enter. All right, now it's doing something with coroutines. I have a coroutine ID. Let's make that private. Here, coroutine equals null. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do before I start a coroutine is make sure one is stopped. So if coroutine is not equal to null, then I gotta stop coroutine ID. And now I can start a new one. Coroutine ID equals start coroutine deactivate shot. Yeah, because I guess if the shot collides with something, I'm going to deactivate it right away. Otherwise, the shot was on its way to being deactivated after a certain amount of time. Okay, so over here, private IEnumerator. Oh, you know what? IEnumerator deactivate shot and float delay. How long to wait? Yeah. Doesn't know what IEnumerator is. And show potential fixes using systems collection. Okay, in the player script I did something and I just want to correct it. I didn't put the scope, so I'm gonna put the word private there. I just said IEnumerator and the scope was gonna be assumed. I like to be definite, so I like to say private IEnumerator. Private IEnumerator. Now deactivate shot. What was it doing in the old one? It waited and then it deactivated stuff, right? So copy. First it waits, and then it goes ahead and deactivates stuff. So, okay, when it's deactivating, it has to deactivate, it has to not render, it has to turn off the collider, and it has to stop the motion, any physics motions. Okay. So for the renderer, we have private renderer, and I'm going to say rend equals null. Private collider, CLDR equals null. And then we have rigid body, private rigid body, RB equals null. Okay, and these are all things that are going to have to get set since it's being spawned. I'm going to set it with properties, private renderer rend get if rend equals null, rend equals this dot get component renderer. Ooh, what am I doing wrong? Here's my renderer get this component get renderer ren. Oh, because inside I have to use the member variable, and I made the member variable with the underscore, right? And then finally return rend. Okay. Then everywhere in the code I could just say ren. You know. So I did that for that. Then I got to do it for the others. Private collider, any kind of collider, CLDR get if get if underscore CLDR equals null. Then we're gonna have to get it. So underscore CLDR equals this dot get component collider. And then just return it. Return underscore CLDR. And then one more. It's the rigid body. So private rigid body RB. Then I say if underscore RB equals null, then underscore RB equals this dot get component rigid body. The component rigid body. Return RB underscore RB. There, so that's my three things. So now my three things set. Then here in the on collision enter, back to my on collision enter, and it's actually back to my deactivate shot. Here my deactivate shot. So the renderer is rend enabled equals false. The collider is CLDR equals false, and the rigid body RB and RB 00. Deactivate and stop all the motions, stop all the physics motions that may be happening. So that's deactivate shot. no, okay. There, so in my collision I got the score, which is over here. I got the explosion, which is over here. And then I got the deactivate, which is right there. Now another thing that's missing is the activate shot. So I think that's my last thing missing. Something's going to call for this shot to spawn and activate. So let's put that over here. It's going to be public, and it could be a void activate shot. And what I could do is it could be passed to game object. Game object G object. Pass one variable. Bam. Instead I had it passing two. All right, what's all the things it has to do in here? First, it has to inactivate inactive shot. Inactive shot is going to equal false. It's not going to be inactive anymore. Then I'm going to render it. So ren.enabled equals true. Collider.enabled equals true. And it was setting the velocities to 0. RB dot linear velocity vector 3.0, just to make sure it's not moving. RB dot angular velocity, oops, not angular damping, velocity equals vector 3.0, okay. And now we set the position of this thing. So this is like turning it back on. Okay, then we're gonna set the, what's its location, right? So this dot transform dot position equals the G object dot transform dot position. Yeah, and this dot transform dot rotation equals G object dot transform dot rotation. Yeah. Now what else? Now we got sound. So, did we do sound yet? Yeah, we did. Odd player shot. Odd player shot dot play. So one shot, I should just play one time. And then we have to start the coroutine to deactivate it, the lifetime thing. So it's basically starting the coroutine again, like it did over here. Copy. Except over here, the coroutine started with instantly to stop, and over here, we're gonna have it have the lifetime to stop. So right when the shot is fired off and activated, it's already going to be setting a timer for the shot to deactivate. And I think that is a cleaner version, or, you know, a little bit more tidied up version of the activate shot. All right, I think that works for the player shot file. Save all my scripts, and then I'll just put this back together with the other ones, and then here in Unity, assets, prefabs, let's have the player shot use the new script instead of the old one. So here's player shot, the old script. I'm going to remove it, and then I'm going to add, I'll just drag and drop add. Where's player shot 2? I'll just drag and drop that. Bam. What does it need to know? What the explosion is. Okay. So it needs to know what the explosion is. That is the what is the explosion? Oh my god. Enemy explosion. This is a player shot explosion. That's the player shot explosion, actually. So there's the player shot and player shot explosion. Uh-oh. They're not working. There's an error message. Over here it says, object reference not set to instance of an object. Something's null. Let's double click. And here, it said the script is null. Oh, because here it says player shot. It was trying to get the player shot script in the player 2, but now it's called the player shot 2 script. Aha. Player shot 2 script. Ta-da. Okay, that should fix that. Now let's try it again. What? Compiler error. Oh, it doesn't take 2 arguments anymore. I changed it to take 1 argument. So it is this dot game object instead. Why is this red? Oh, because it's player shot 2. Okay. And over here, take one argument. This dot game object. Any more red squigglies? Save. Unity. So every time I do make a change in the script, when I come back to Unity, Unity keeps compiling everything, but I don't know, Unity does more stuff and takes a long time. Now let's see, there's no more red arrows. Can I shoot my shot? It's time to shoot your shot. Yo. The explosions and the sounds aren't firing. There's no explosions and sounds. They are deactivating, but there's no explosions, there's no sounds. So I think the easiest way for me to do this is go to player shot 2 and go to on collision enter. Let's see what's happening here with a breakpoint attached to Unity, and then press play. To me, the fastest way to see what's going on. Press play, and now let me shoot one of these enemies. Okay, here I am. I got the collision layer is 0. The collision game object, the layer is 0. So that's why it's not doing anything in there. Okay, let's go and see the enemies. What is there? And I was changing the names of layers and stuff. The enemy has lost its layer. Enemy layer 7. File, save. Okay. So, now let's try it. Play. There we go. Oh. Okay. Whoa, my ship is drifting. You saw that? Okay, let me stop. Here on the player, thank goodness, see, I just lost all my lives and then I started over. So here I'm going to say can die. I'm going to turn that off. And my ship was kind of drifting after it got hit. Yo, it was drifting after it got hit. I think this was not accounted for in the original player script. So here in this player script, I'm going to make it that the ship could drift. But then when I move, then I'll stop all the velocities. Okay. So if I'm going to stop the velocities, I need a pointer to rigid body. Private rigid body RB equals null. So in the start, I'm going to get the rigid body. Now the reason here I could instantiate the rigid body, I could set the rigid body value in the start is because the player is not getting spawned, because the player is already in the scene when the game level presses start. So I can just do this. And then let's do a thing here. If I do a movement control, that I'll just like turn off the velocities, So RB dot linear velocity equals vector 3.0 and RB dot angular velocity equals vector 3.0. So if I move the ship, then that's going to stop the physics drifties. If I move it left or right, the ship controls, then it'll stop the drifties. All right? So it could drift, but then it's going to stop it. So let's see that in the game. Waiting for it to like load. Okay, here we go. Press play. I get hit a couple of times. And the ship is like drifty. So I do a little drifting. But then the drifting stops. Okay? So that's good. So I like the way things are going there. So what have I done? I've updated to use player shot 2 instead of player shot. So I'm going to get rid of player shot. I'm going to delete that. Bam! And then I've updated to use player 2 instead of player. So I'm going to delete player. And I'm going to delete that. Bam. And when I deleted, then I got something wrong. I got like a error message. So let's double click and see where that's coming from. What, did the error message go away? Press play. Let's see. Oh, I think when I deleted player shot script, the player script was using it. So now I'm okay. Okay, so I rewrote player shot 2. The next things that I want to rewrite are enemy and enemy spawner. Let's take a look at the enemy script. But also, I'll probably want to change the enemy graphic. So let's get a ship for enemy from Magical Voxel. Let's see what kind of ships we got here. And that's kooky. Well, what's going on here? That's really big. Yeah, that's like a large size. Make sure we got the local space turned on. Save that one. But we're not going to use that one. 4. Hey, wait a minute. What ship am I? Let me look at the game again. Okay, I'm this blue. I'm this blue ship. And 4 is different. And, dude, do I have any more ships? Oh, yeah, I got some more ships up here. That looks like a good player ship. This one, shrink it down. This one doesn't have a lot of spice to it. But that could be an enemy ship for us. Oopsie. What does that say? Save it. Okay. Oh, this one's really plain. And this one's non-symmetrical. And this one's kind of big. So I think I like, what was it? This one, just to beef with. Let me use this one. So let me just make sure local space is turned on. Good. And let me export the OBJ. Space game, OBJs, enemy 1. I could save it with whatever name. Who cares? Okay, so now in my prefab folder, no, not in my prefab, in my OBJs folder. Yo, I already had a ship here. What was this one? Ooh, that looked pretty good. Or this one? This one looks a little more like the beginner ship before this one. So this one, I'll use this one first. So let's remember, we get the OBJs, and what they have is they have a ship inside a ship. I mean, they have an object inside an object. So I'm going to take this object, I'm going to unpack the prefab of the OBJ, unpack, and then this is going to be my enemy. Okay, enemy level 1, I'll say, and I'll just drag that out and get rid of that. Enemy level 1, there you go. These game objects, they all have the same material. And as I get more and more and more game objects, they have the same material. So let me just take the material from one of them and extract it. Okay, just extract it right here to this folder. There, palette 1. And then I'm going to tell the game objects to use, let me just rename this to OBJ material. Okay, now I can tell them all to use OBJ material. And what about you? Change you to use OBJ material. Apply. And change you to use OBJ material. Apply. Now here they look good. Over here they look pink. Let me do it on one of the other ones. Let me do it on this one. Let me delete that. And then this, it still looks good. This, it looks good right here too. This. Oh, this. I know why. Because that's a prefab, and the prefab didn't get a chance. When these are the OBJs. Uh-oh. Control Z. I still... damn it, man. I made a mistake. The one that I didn't extract from, I still needed the freaking thing on it. Oh, man. All right. Check it out. I made a mistake. I'm gonna have to re-grab all these guys again. Okay, let me try something. How do I fix a boo-boo? I don't know. Object. This is gonna be player. No, I'll just call it ship 02 like it is here. Ship 02. Okay, export that. Bam. Then here, in Unity, I mean. Here's ship 02. Ship 02, I'm gonna let me get rid of this object material. Yeah, delete. Good, now they're all pink. And this player one, I can get rid of this because delete. No problem. Ship 02, extract the materials to OBJ, select that folder, palette. Okay, I'm gonna call this, click, OBJ material, enter. Okay, I took the, let me see, the player. Let me take this game object out, delete. It is a prefab. Let me just remake the Let me put this in here for the player. See, now it has a material. Ooh, okay. Do not delete the one material that do not delete the one texture that the material is building itself off of. That all these other game objects are gonna use, the OBJs. One texture, one material, they all share. Bam. All right, cool. So I put the player ship back in again. So let me unpack the prefab. Where's on prefab? Unpack. Bam. And then this is the player. Player. Enter. And then drag and drop it up. Delete that upper object. Here, the player. Then I could put the script on it. Bam. Oh, it needs things like a rigid body. And then the rigid body, I freeze position on the Z and rotation on the X and the Y. And there's no gravity. And then it needs a collider, mesh collider, convex. And I like the script to be at the bottom, so I'm just going to move it down, and I'm going to move it down to the bottom script. So then it needs the prefab for the shot and the prefab for the explosion. So here I can look in the prefabs folder, and I could drag and drop the shot prefab and the player explosion prefab. Darn it! I pressed the wrong button again. The player explosion prefab. Bam. So all the script has all the things it needs. Now this player here is not the prefab anymore, so let me delete that and drag this player as the new prefab with its material trickery. All right, now the next thing, I want to change the enemy from a block. So, here the player's in the scene. That means this player could go away. Bye-bye. File, save. Then we have the enemy. So let's look in the OBJs. And I said first we're going to use this as the level 1 enemy. So I'll drag you in here to the scene. And then I will take you and unpack your prefab. Unpack. Then inside, this is going to be enemy level 1. And drag and drop you out. There. Delete. Enemy level 1. And it needs a rigid body and a collider. So let's do a mesh collider. And it's going to be convex. And let's add a rigid body. Okay. And turn off gravity. File, save. Whew. And we're going to add the script. But instead of the enemy script, we're going to add an enemy 2 script, our new script. As I kind of go through cleaning everything. Enemy. Oh boy. I'm going to have enemy level 1, enemy level 2. But there's an enemy script. Enemy 2. Okay. And let's open up the enemy script. And let's open up the enemy 2 script in Visual Studio. Da 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 da. Any day now. Any day now. Okay, so I got my enemy 2 script, which I'm writing. So let me just put that in its vertical document group. Let me gut it out. And now let me just go through and rewrite this guy. All right, so we got move speed, public float, move speed. Then the enemy is something that's spawned. So I'm gonna have a public bool inactive enemy, just the way I had with the shot. Okay, and by default it's gonna be inactive. And then I'm gonna have the things for when it deactivates and activates, like the renderer. And then I'll have private collider and rigid body. And then for the 3 of those, I'll have properties that set it, since it's a So in player shot 2, I had the properties for rend, collider, rigid body. Let me just copy those. They should be able to work here too. So I got those 3 properties. Bam. Okay. Bam. 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 The enemy, does it have any sounds? Well, I guess it doesn't have any sounds yet. But for now, we're going to write the update that's going to do, what does the enemy do? If inactive enemy equals false, then it's going to move. Bam. That's simple. That's what's going to keep on moving. Right? Now, it's going to move until on became invisible. On became invisible is a mono behavior event. when this game object comes out of visibility of the camera, this event fires off, and I will deactivate the enemy. So let's write a deactivate enemy function. Class definitions. Let's see what we got here. So that could be a private void deactivate enemy and inactive enemy equals true. And then we're going to have the ren.enabled, and we're going to turn off the collider, and we're going to make sure there's no rigid body motions being applied. Boom. My cat, hello Jax. My cat, hello. What else we're going to do? The call to activate the enemy is going to be public. So we'll say public public void activate enemy. Let's see what's in here. And then, excuse me, sorry. I should pet you and stop making a video. So inactivate enemy is going to be the opposite of deactivate enemy, basically. So let me just copy this stuff here. Copy, and when I activate the enemy, so one thing that it didn't have in the deactivate, when I activate it, I need to set the positions and the rotation. Copy. And that's the extra thing. Control V. So this inactivate enemy equals false, and render is true, right, Jax? And enabled is true, and and that's the difference. So I got the activate and I got the deactivate. So the only thing is, if the enemy collides with something, what do I do? If it collides, then it deactivates. On collision, enter. Ay, ay, ay. Something that's not on the enemy layer, right? Because let me see, when I had the player 2, I need player 2 script, and let me, on the collision here, I did a check for the layer to be 7, the enemy layer. So here, if collision, thank you, Jax. Collision dot game object dot layer is not equal to the enemy layer. It's a different layer. Then we're gonna say, yeah, you just collided. Okay, 7 is the enemy layer. What do I do? Oh, all I have to do is deactivate the enemy. And when it collides, I think it'll be nice. When it comes out of view, just deactivate it, right? But I think it'll be nice to have a coroutine that when it collides, like, let the collision be throwing the enemy off track and let us see it flying off track a little bit before it blows the heck up. So let me add a coroutine to that. And since there's going to be 2 different deactivates, I'm going to have a coroutine variable. Jax, that's what's going to equal. And when I deactivate, it's going to be a private IEnumerator. IEnumerator. And since it's an IEnumerator, Jax, I'm going to need to show potential fixes. Oopsie. Show potential fixes. Include that. And then inside, I'm going to have a little wait. Let's see, the float is a delay before it actually runs these commands. Bam. When it comes out of visibility, the delay is going to be immediate. And when it's coming from a collision, let's make the delay, make it 1 second. 1 there. That's about how long it'll take. So that's a difference. And then collapse definitions. We're doing the collision for the enemy. Let's go back to the enemy. And that's all it did, was it deactivate. There's no sounds, there's no anything else. So I was wondering, because, I mean, the shot hits and then the shot goes, you know, it makes its like little explosion effect, you know? And different enemies probably want some different explosions, but for now, let's just have this script and see if this script works. Oh, wait a minute. I had to use the coroutine ID. Sorry. So everywhere I call deactivate enemy, I have to use the coroutine thing. So let's find all the references. So here's one where it's 0. So I just have to check. And then the coroutine ID, copy, equals, Control V, that. All right, so, whoa. Wait a minute. No. This is going to equal start coroutine deactivate enemy 0. Bam. So that's deactivate enemy. It stops it right away. Copy. And then here on the collision, here's another deactivate, but I'm going to make it after 1 second. So let me paste that in there. And instead of 0, I'm going to give it, I don't know, 1.5 seconds. I think that's the whole enemy script. Outline, collapse definitions, outline, collapse definitions. So now I'm going to stick enemy2 script onto my enemy. Here is enemy level 1. It has its mesh collider, it has its rigid body, and it's going to have its enemy2 script. Bam. Cool. It doesn't need anything else. Save. Oh my god! How about that? I make a sound that says, oh my god! I make different like cry sounds, like the way my ship goes, but that'll be later. That'll be later for fun. Now, the thing that spawns the enemies, it's probably going to need some updates. So let me look at the enemy spawner script. And let me put that over here. Well, actually, let me put it over here. Because the enemy thing is going away. So, the enemy spawner, it always had a min and a max, which never really mattered much. Because then what happened is over here, I just set my own times based on the difficulty level. So I could fix that because it ain't going to matter what a person types in there. Hey, where you going, Jack? Sorry. Sorry. Wait, let me pet you. I'm so sorry. Don't leave. I'm just trying to make a video. So here in the spawner, I could make these variables float this and float that. You know? And then they get their values in the difficulty level thing. So those don't need to be public floats anymore. So all the enemy spawner needs to know is what's the prefab for the enemy. And then private game object enemy pool. Is that what it's called? Is it called enemy pool in the scene? Let's see. Damn the hold on stuff. Okay, let's see over here. It's called enemy pool. It is called enemy pool. So over here, enemy pool. It's an enemy2 script that I wrote. Right. So it is going to look in a pool. Enemy2. So here, get a random spawn X, random position, look in pool, instantiate, and that's basically what's going on here. So this wasn't that too complicated to fix. And the enemy script could probably go away. And the player shot script could go away. I got player 2, player shot 2, enemy 2, and enemy spawner. I didn't rename it by saying 2, but enemy spawner is new. This enemy has a script on it. Let's turn them into a prefab. Down here, we had that enemy, which is a block, and now we're going to have this enemy, which is a ship. Okay, so on my enemy spawner, which is this block way back there in the distance, and it's visible, but I think when I play the game, I should make it invisible. And this block could be as wide as I want it to be. It could be as wide as that whole horizon, you know, I think. File, save, or I could make it back to small, 13. Let's try it as wide as that. And the enemy spawner has a prefab, which I'm going to say is enemy level 1. That's what I'm going to say it is now. This guy, I could take him out of the scene. And I re-put him in the scene. Let me just set the camera, game object, align view to selected. All right. So my player, when I re-put him in, he's way, way far up there. Let me move him back here. Okay, I'm moving back here. File, save. Okay, almost ready to try it. Enemy spawner thing, it doesn't have to be visible. Okay, play. I don't see shit. Ooh, and I got an error. So what's the error? Object reference not set to instance of an object. Oh, enemy pool. I need to get the enemy pool. Use game object find for enemy pool. Enemy pool. It's nice to spell. Enemy pool. And the name of the game object is enemy pool. Save. Now let's try it again. And hopefully we don't have an error. Here we go. Press play. It looks like collisions with the shots are happening that are messing me up. So let me go ahead and the player has to be tagged as a player and has to be layer as the player layer. Good. I forgot that. Now, in the project, let's take the enemy, go to the prefab of it, and tag it as an enemy, and the layer is enemy layer. That's a problem. We fixed that just to make sure about everything. What's this routine is null? What is that? If coroutine ID equals null. Oh, not equal null. Whoopsie. Not equal to null. And on collision, enter if coroutine ID not equal to null. Okay, save. Okay. Every time I touch the script, gotta have this delay. Really, you're killing me, Unity. You're killing me. And the only other game object I gotta make sure has the layers right is the. Yep, that's right. So it looks like every game object has its things right. And press play. Cool. Some of them I can't reach. They're just out of reach. Because the spawn thing is very long. So let me make I'll put the spawn thing back. The enemy spawner, I think it was a 13. The scale is 188. I'll put it back to 13. And let's see. Let's press play. Oh. Wait a minute. I just got knocked offline. I'm gonna go back. Player, and I can't die. I got knocked offline. I thought I couldn't do that. Save. So my new player, which has a new rigid body, did I put the constraints? I did. So position on the Z is forward and back, but it didn't have Y. It can go up and down, and it went up. And then the rotation on the Z, yeah, it rotated on the Z. So it's bing, 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 bing. The only thing is the X. It could be pushed sideways. Okay, let's try again. Almost done here. It was a long night. But I changed the graphics. Yeah, one thing's for sure: when the ships don't disappear right away, I could crash into them. When the ships don't disappear right away, I could crash into them. And the enemy spawner, it's too narrow. I was playing around with it. Let me just turn the renderer on, and let me just make the scale in the Z like incredibly long. Incredibly longer. Okay, so it's reaching down to me like that when the width is 13, when the width is wider. Okay, the ships are going to come out like that. Now I can just make it back to a 1, and I can turn off the renderer, and I can say save. What am I thinking? What is this? What is this? It says if coroutine not equal to null, stop coroutine, deactivate enemy. If coroutine not equal to null, stop coroutine. Coroutine equals that. Coroutine equals that. So let's not make them stay alive for so long. Let's make them stay alive for like 0.25 so that they could like just explode or something. Otherwise they keep coming at me. Or 0. I don't know. 1. Let's say that. File. Save all. Shrink that down. Let's go back to Unity and play this and see if we call it a night for tonight. Yeah, I'm pretty bulletproof over here. Yeah, it's almost like I'm just shooting peas in a pod. We'll play around with the play later, but for now we got the graphics updated and stuff like that, and that's pretty cool. And I still keep having this error. Coroutine couldn't be started because the enemy clone is inactive. Whoa. Enemy level 1 clone is inactive. Oh, we'll fix that error next time too. Otherwise, tonight, that is all. Good night, friends.